forward. Welcome to the expansive DLCast. I am Yar TTomlliw, your host, and this is only episode 3. I know we've had to work out a few logistical things, but we're hoping to have not only a co-host in the very near future, but also more regular episodes on a weekly basis. So yeah, exciting times, the expansive DLCcast. We've got a ton to get through again, as always, so we're just going to dive right in. So I'm going to talk a bit about what I've been playing. This week, it has been, of course, Sea of Thieves from Microsoft. Now, I actually got this for the Xbox Game Pass, which is the first, as I mentioned in the previous podcast, the first major game that is going to be part of the Game Pass exclusivity subscription service, and the first major Microsoft first-party title. And it worked seamlessly. I was there waiting at midnight on launch, waiting to download the game, and it popped right up. So I think that's a great thing, because I was a bit concerned when I first mentioned it that I might have been misleading people. So I was there and anticipating it, and yeah, it was there on my laptop when I tried to download it, and on the Xbox One. So kudos to Microsoft, because they've done a fantastic job of it already. Yes, Sea of Thieves has been a bit of a ropey launch. There's been obviously the teething problems. There's always going to be with a massive multiplayer game like that, but full credit for them for the Xbox Game Pass side of things. It ran smoothly, it was seamlessly. I could download the game, not a problem at all. So congrats for that. As for the game itself, really enjoying it. Obviously, as I mentioned, there has been some teething problems with the online component at launch. It hasn't been completely seamless, but what's good about it is that you can just jump on into a voyage at any point, scour the seas. The visuals look absolutely stunning, and there's quite a lot of variety, quite a lot of things to do, a lot of things to unlock. And Sea of Thieves really has potential, from our perspective, from an expansive point of view, to be a game that's developed for years to come. If the support is there, which I imagine it's going to do okay based on the Game Pass side of things as well as the retail launch, if the support continues to be there for months down the line, I can't see why Microsoft wouldn't be fully behind this for the next couple of years, because Rare they've had a bit of a fractured relationship with Microsoft, shall we say. I mean, they spent a lot of their time working on Kinect games. For me, playing Sea of Thieves, this to me is the first true Rare game I feel that I've had from Microsoft. This feels like old school Rare. This is going back to sort of the Jet Force Gemini, Banjo-Kazooie early days of Rare, Conker's Bad Fur Day. This is great, and it's got that same kind of humor. It's got that same kind of look. It's got the same kind of feel. I'm really enjoying it, I have to say. I mean, I feel that Sea of Thieves is going to benefit from having a team of people going in. As with any multiplayer game, I feel like if you're playing with friends, that's the best way to play it. But at the same time, I actually, to give you an example, I actually did a voyage on my own in the end, because the crew I was with actually abandoned me. They stranded me on the island. So like I'd led them to the destination. We'd gone as far as we could go. I touched feet on the shore, and my ship was veering away, and I was like, wait, what? You leave me to this. And funnily enough, we kind of made a bit of a jokey post about this on Expansive. We're doing like daily voyages of Yar TTomlliw the pirate. So we're having a bit of fun with that. But I kind of documented in that. But it was just such an unexpected, cool moment that you would never get in a single player game, But at the same time, it became a single player game, because all of a sudden I was on my own against this army of the undead. So I was having to fight for myself, fight for my life, all on my lonesome. But it was a situation that was created because I was in a multiplayer party. And I feel like Sea of Thieves is going to be this game where everyone is going to have their fun little story. Everyone is going to be able to say, yeah, this happened to me, and there was this one time when, and just go on these tangents and these little tales that I feel will just sell the game to anybody, because you feel like you're missing out if you're not part of that. So yeah, really am enjoying Sea of Thieves. We're hoping to have a review on the site probably next week, to be honest, because I feel like with a game like this, you really need the time to get used to how it all plays and how everything is evolving. And it's a tricky one to review too, because your experience is going to be different to everybody else's. So you're not just going to be able to say, oh yeah, this is the definitive experience of the game, blah, 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 blah. It's all going to be very, very different. So we are going to aim to have a review for Sea of Thieves, but it might be a little while before we do that, because again, we just want to make sure that we're giving it the proper time it deserves and needs to really get a feel for it. Now, a game I have reviewed and I have been playing a lot is Burnout Paradise Remastered. And yeah, as you might have seen from the video reviews, as you might have seen from my written review, I'm in love with the game. It really reminded me. I loved it back 10 years ago, and for me, I'm not really a racer. I don't really necessarily enjoy racing games, but Burnout Paradise is something different. It's not just the mission structure, not just the open world environment, but it's just something about the cruising, the speed of it, the feel of it, the things you can do, just stumbling across things all the time rather than just having to go to a set destination. All feels very refreshing, very different, very cool and relaxing. And I loved being a part of it. I loved this environment. I like the sandbox nature of it. Burnout Paradise Remastered is just a good step up from that. It's a good improvement because even though it's a 10-year game, you are seeing some improvements in the visuals. Obviously, the lighting is different and better now. There's a sharpness of the textures. It supports full 4K, 60 frames per second. As far as EA are concerned, because this is their first remake for this gen, I know there's been some problems. People have been experiencing some issues on PlayStation 4 with the patches and bugs. Honestly, straight up, I played this on Xbox One prior to review. I didn't have a problem. I really didn't. My playthrough was quite seamless, actually. So when I saw that come out, I was a little surprised because for me, this was a great experience. Overall, I had no problem with it. And then when people were reporting the bugs and the issues on PlayStation 4, it was getting a little bit concerned. And obviously Criterion and EA have acknowledged that, and they're saying they're working on it. So I'm really sorry those people didn't have the experience I had, because I really did enjoy Burnout Paradise Remastered. Obviously, that I'm just going off my experience. That's all any reviewer can do. But I hope that people get it patched to a point that they're happy with and they can have that same experience. Because for me, the moment I picked up the pad, the moment I heard Paradise City, the moment I was just driving around it, I was a teenager again. I was a happy guy, and I loved it, and I really do recommend it. I mean, if you're going to wait for patches, please do, but it's something you should definitely consider picking up. I know it's a busy month. I know it's a crazy couple of months in games, but it's a great remaster, I feel, and hopefully EA will do some more, because I know obviously people are very keen for them to have a Mass Effect remastered. I'd be very interested to see that, although I feel because of the way Mass Effect 2 changed things so dramatically, and obviously Andromeda fairly recently has adopted similar mechanics, I don't feel Mass Effect 1's gameplay will age very well. Burnout Paradise is very different in the sense that it's timeless, I feel. It's a game that you could play right now. You could play it on backwards compatibility right now and be more than satisfied with it still. You would compare it to some of the best races of the time. Mass Effect 1, I don't think you would. I feel like it had a good story, and the things it did were really, really good. And I mean, it's got a very special place in my heart. I adore Mass Effect 1. But mechanically, there are things that are very dated now, which in some respects, I feel like a full remaster would be better rather than just a new lick of paint. That's just my opinion. I mean, obviously, if EA announced tomorrow they were going to do an exact same thing with Mass Effect, I probably would be there to buy it day one. I'm not going to lie. But initial feelings that it could be a bit dated in some respects, whereas other games that EA could relaunch and redo may not be. So we'll be interested to see whether or not they follow through with that. It's obviously done very well. It's number one in the UK chart. So there's certainly something EA are going to be thinking about going forward. So yeah, time to start getting your thinking cap on what you'd like them to remaster next. Finally, what I've been playing this week, Scribblenauts Showdown. Well, I'm a Scribblenauts fan. I think a lot of people are. Scribblenauts Showdown kind of gives you glimpses of what how good Scribblenauts is. It kind of shows you the good aspects of Scribblenauts and also shows you the bad. What surprised me about it is that, yes, it's a multiplayer game. Yes, it's a fun local experience that you can play against the AI, or you can play with your friends on the couch, a la Mario Party, and you can just have a bit of fun. But what seems to be the issue is that they have literally done that to the letter. They've just basically created Mario Party and put a Scribblenauts skin over the top, which is a bit confusing because there's a creative nature in Scribblenauts that's not present in any other game. I mean, looking into it, there's something ridiculous like 35,000 words you can put into Scribblenauts and it will generate that word onto the screen. So for me, what I was saying was, why was that aspect of it not used more? Because what essentially happens is you have the mini game. So for instance, there's a fishing game where you and your opponent at the top of the screen, you're fishing down to the bottom to collect the fish and driving it back up to the top, and you've got to fill up your boat. The one who does it first wins. But the only thing that kind of precedes that is you get a category. So like it might be things associated with Halloween. And then what you do with that is you put a word in that's associated with Halloween. So it could be pumpkin, it could be witch, it could be broomstick, it could be skeleton, Jason, Freddy, whatever. You put it in and then it tells you it's a good match, and then that means then the fish has got more of a chance to latch onto your bait. But that's as far as it goes. And then when you see it on the screen, when you're capturing the fish, like for instance, some of the fish had pumpkins for heads, which is kind of cool little feature, but I feel like it could have gone a step further too. they did the base amount of what they could do with the Scribblenauts franchise in that kind of genre. And as a result of that, you notice that if you did play it, if you decided, say, you know what, I'm going to try out Mario Party now just to see how it fares, there's more mini games to start with, so there's more variety. And B, Mario Party just plays better because it's more naturally suited. It was naturally created for that type of game. Scribblenauts feels like they've just adopted some of the best of Mario Party and then just chucked it all together, and they've given us this. And it's a little bit disappointing. Like I mentioned in my review, I would have loved to have seen a kind of like a rock, paper, scissors sort of game where like neither of you knows what word you're going to put in, and then you've got a category to choose from. Like you put the word in and then like you see what you've got. So like for instance, someone might type in a fish and someone might type in a shark. Immediately the person who's the shark would win that game because obviously shark trumps fish. So, you know, something like that could have been really fun, and there doesn't seem to be anything like that. The closest is kind of like I guess you could describe like a tower fall kind of beat 'em up, which you kind of like you can say before the fight that you want to what weapon you want to use. So I said like a tea leaf just to be completely random, and that's the kind of creativity that Scribblenauts encourages. So I did that, and as a result, that was about as close as it got, and it was just a case of tapping the X button, slap, 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 and then whoever wins, wins. It's fine, but yeah, Scribblenauts Showdown is fun. I think it's one of those games that's going to be good on the cheap. I've actually seen it's dropped its price already, which is a bit of a concern really in terms of sales. But, you know, maybe if they decide to ever do this again, it would be great to see more done to kind of look into that. The thing is as well, because they prioritize the mini games, they've really kind of let the sandbox side of things go to the wayside, so it doesn't feel quite as creative as I would have liked or I would have, you know, wanted. So it's okay. It's not a terrible game. It's got some good stuff, good features, good things going for it. It's still Scribblenauts. You get Scribblenauts on your Switch, yay, but it's definitely not a highlight for the series. So yeah, bit of a shame. But anyway, that's just the games I've been playing this week. And you can also expect to see on the site coming up very soon DLC reviews for the upcoming The Heat Is On DLC for Turmoil, which is a strategy simulator in an oil rush in the 19th century. Kerbal Space Program Making History DLC. We're looking at that at the moment, so we're going to have a review for that very soon. And South Park Fractured But Whole, the Casa Bonita DLC, which just released this week, and we're going to talk a bit more about that in a moment in the news. So yeah, all those DLC reviews to come. But before we get into the news, I want to talk a bit about the Nintendo Direct Indies showcase that was shown off this week. It was only 10 minutes, very short, so I immediately got people's back up, I think. And looking to the reaction online, I could see that people were incredibly disappointed with what was shown. I remember I was sat in the chat, in the Periscope, watching it, and all I could see was people shouting out things like, super hot, and is Fortnite an indie? And I was just thinking to myself, you're already setting yourself up for disappointment with this, because this is not what this is about, and there is absolutely no way that Nintendo are going to announce something as significant as Fortnite at anything other than E3. Let's be completely honest. That is an E3 announcement if ever there was one. It is the biggest third-party game out there right now, and if rumors are to be believed, if you look at the recent data mine, it is going to come to Switch. There is Unreal Engine 4 support on Switch, so there's no reason why it couldn't make an appearance. Having said that, I'm still not 100% sure that it will, but the other thing to think of as well, Nintendo haven't even properly announced their online component, which is due out in September. Can you imagine trying to play Fortnite on Switch right now without that? Hopefully that improves things massively, because right now the voice chat thing, if you've played Splatoon 2, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Voice chat is pretty horrendous, so that's a no-go, and voice chat is something that a lot of people are doing on Fortnite. So for me, that's something that Nintendo are going to have to really properly look into first before they even think about having titles like that on Switch. But yeah, that was not going to get announced. No. Maybe it'll get announced next year. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But the point is, people set themselves up for a disappointment very, very early on with this showcase. And to me, personally, I actually thought this might be the most important showcase that Nintendo have done yet. So the reason I think it was so important, there were some big announcements in there that people may not have necessarily thought were big announcements. I think the first one to jump to is Reigns. Now, that's a title I've been saying for a while really needs to appear on Switch, because it's been on mobile, it's been on tablet, it's been on all the consoles, it's been on PC. It's a natural fit for Nintendo Switch, no question. So seeing it there wasn't a surprise, but it was also a welcome surprise at the same time. But the way they announced it now was quite interesting because they've announced an exclusive co-op mode, which is not available on any other system. Now, this is the first point I'd like to make about the showcase. I feel like Nintendo, they're not just bringing these games that you would expect to find on the Switch onto the format, they're doing new things with them to take advantage of the Switch and what it can do. So we don't know much about the exclusive co-op mode just yet. We can see that it's related to the Joy-Cons, but we're going to find out more about that very soon, I'm sure, closer to launch. But the other thing as well is that it's a double pack, which has also not been done because it's going to have Reigns Her Majesty and it's going to have Reigns in the same pack. Now, I'm assuming that that's probably going to happen on PS4 and Xbox One around about the same time. But that leads on to my second point. Developers are producing titles for the Switch at the same time. And that's been proven now by the announcement of Banner Saga 3. Now that is already due out in the summer for PS4 and Xbox One as well as PC. But now they've announced that it's coming to Switch as well. So you can see already that it's no longer a case of PS4, Xbox One first, then Switch later as an afterthought. Not in all cases, of course. But you're already seeing that shift in terms of Nintendo's third-party support is actually being considered at the same time as its rivals. Now, if you think back to the Wii U and even to the GameCube times, that was never the case. It was always the Nintendo products would suffer. They would always get belated releases. And that has been a big part of their problem. That's why their products have suffered over the years, because their third party has kind of sucked. But it seems that the tide is turning, and obviously that's helped and buoyed by the fact that Nintendo's 12-month sales are the highest in US history ever, which is a massive accomplishment. So congratulations to them for that, because what a turnaround from the Wii U that is. But also it's had a bigger ripple effect because now titles are coming out at the same time. And obviously there's been Pillars of Eternity 2 has been announced. Now obviously the difference with that is the Switch ports have tended to need a bit more work. So what's going to be the thing for that is certain titles, like for instance Pillars of Eternity 2, we don't have definitive release dates for that, other than PC of course. If there will be a delay, how much of a delay there will be, and obviously what the port will come out like. I mean, to get a game like that on Switch to begin with is astonishing. I mean, we've previewed it on this on the YouTube channel, on the site, and you can check that out. And you can see how good it looks and how big it's going to be. So having that on Switch is just blows my mind already. But obviously, as a port, is it going to take longer? And these are the things that are going to be issues to go on with, because you've got Wolfenstein 2 has been ported across by Panic Button. You had Doom that was done, but Doom did encounter some issues. So the issue for Switch now is going to be, yes, it has that support. Yes, it has that attention and it's getting that recognition that it deserves, but are the ports going to be the weakest end of the ports? And when you've got the competition between having games all at the same time, is Nintendo actually going to suffer for that now? Because the delay in the port has meant that it's had no competition. Now it's competing against Xbox One and PS4. So it's either going to need to offer these new features like I've just suggested with Reigns, or it's just going to purely rely on this portability factor, which it has done already. But if it's a weakened port, if it's seeing like huge drops in frame rate, or there's glitches, or there's massive bugs or whatnot, are people just going to stop buying third party for Switch? Has Nintendo's own success then caused them more of a detriment than a benefit? But the point of this showcase and the point of this is that we're at a stage now where stuff like Luminous and Mark of the Ninja and Banner Saga 3 are now coming at the same time as the console brethren. So that's a huge step forward for Nintendo, and this showcase really exploited that, I think, which a lot of people didn't really pick up on. So big kudos to them, but it's going to be interesting to see how these ports fare. I mean, I can't imagine that Reigns is going to be a problem, right? But we're talking bigger games, bigger third-party titles that are being developed for the console. But on top of that, you had an exclusive console title as well called West of Loathing, which is actually a very big indie PC title. Now that to me was another big statement of intent, because it means that Nintendo are now actually actively looking to make deals with indie developers who are not necessarily have made it onto other consoles or just fairly recently out, and they're actually actively looking around to find these partners. And West of Loathing is already getting a mobile port that's been announced as well, but it's not actually coming to PS4 and Xbox One. This is a console exclusive, at least for now. I mean, we're not suggesting that this is going to remain a console exclusive forever. That's usually only reserved for first parties this day and age. But either way, that's a big move for Nintendo, and it it's not a small game either. It's one of the last year's better indie titles. We played it on PC, really enjoyed it. Looking forward to seeing it come out on Switch. It's very funny. It's definitely got those kind of Thimbleweed Park kind of humor vibes to it, but it's also an adventure and an RPG. So that's a really decent get for Nintendo, and I feel like that's a step in the right direction for them. But the final point to make, and perhaps the biggest one of the lot, is that Nitrome actually announced the game yesterday for Switch in development. Now, that's significant purely because Nitrome are the biggest mobile developer in the space right now, I would argue. They are constantly churning out titles on mobile all the time. They've had some of the best mobile titles in the last couple of years. And, well, this is significant because the Switch is the one console that can actually play mobile games as they should be played on handheld. Now, we've already seen hints of that. Like, you've had handheld-only games, like you've had Voez and you've had Severed, that haven't appeared on any other format. They've worked in handheld only. Now, this is a feature you've not seen used too much on Switch yet, purely because I don't think that developers want to sort of alienate people who want to play on their television. Absolutely understandable. However, if you've got a developer like Nitrome developing titles like that for Switch, what's to say they're not going to start developing the other mobile titles that are not playable on other consoles onto Switch, making sure that Switch is the console exclusive for these mobile titles? That's a very interesting perspective, because when I saw that Nitrome pop up, I was like, I think there's going to be more to this, because Nitrome have a huge back catalogue of games. And actually this goes one further, because TinyBuild, as you've seen, have announced 6 games for Switch, and these titles have already appeared on mobile, and it also adds further credence. So ideas like the likes of Hearthstone are going to appear on Switch because it's a touch-based game. And then you start thinking down the road of, well, how long is it going to be before we see a Clash Royale or a Clash of Clans or Angry Birds? So there is some very interesting things going on behind the scenes, and that one announcement might be the biggest clue to all of it, because if Nintendo have acquired the resources and the skills and the relationships with these mobile developers, then that's a whole other market to tap into. I mean, if you look at A Slay Away Camp, it was a good mobile title, but it got expanded and developed even further on console. Playing that on Switch, you can tell definitive home for the game, because it's meant to be a touch-based game, and it plays better as a touch-based game. So you've got that on Switch now, the expanded console version, which is an upgrade from the mobile version. What's to say you don't see that kind of mentality from all mobile developers now? For instance, like, you could have all of Nitrome's titles like Leap Year on there. We could have games like Rust Bucket and Silly Sausage, Platform Panic, Ditto, Flu. All these games that have been released on mobile in the past could actually appear on Switch in just their original form as well. I mean, Nitrome don't necessarily have to expand them to be definitive editions, but what that means is there is a whole wealth and library of titles that no other platform has been able to get other than mobile, that Switch can say, yep, I'll have that. And all of a sudden, the eShop just gets more full and full and full. What you got to think is, right now, third-party publishers and developers are seeing increased sales on Switch compared to any other platform. That is huge, because that's going to encourage them to develop for Switch first. And so all these mobile titles that have until now been stuck on your phone, why couldn't they be brought onto Switch? Still touch, bigger screen, got Joy-Con abilities as well. They can do more with it, some more RAM, more possibilities. I'm telling you, that Nitrome announcement is the one to watch, because that might be the hint at something much bigger to come. And I tell you what, I would be all for Clash Royale on my Switch. I'd be well up for that, as what I would for Hearthstone, as I would for pretty much any other major mobile game of the last few years. So keep an eye on that. So yeah, this was a decent indie showcase, because it showed things, not games you were necessarily expecting it to show, but it's who announced them, and it's what was announced, and it was how it was announced. And then you got the announcements all around it as well, like the Street Fighter exclusive mode, which is something that wasn't mentioned, which could have been mentioned but wasn't, because it was only a short showcase. Hollow Knight, that's coming soon as well. Lots of interesting stuff going on in the Switch space. We could talk about it all day. We could even dedicate an entire podcast to it, and maybe we'll down the line, but certainly keep your eyes peeled, because stuff is happening and it's big stuff. But for now, I'm done talking about Switch. I got a lot of news to get through, so let's just do it. Alright, first up, Dragonball Fighter Z. We've had the DLC release dates announced for Broly and Bardock. So we've got more Fighter Z coming soon, and Bandai Namco have announced that Broly and Bardock, the 2 DLC characters, are going to be available from March the 28th. Alongside those additional combatants, there will be a commentator's voice pack. And then if you go even further ahead again, they have also announced there will be a free update arriving in spring 2018 that will add Z Unions competitions. Currently, only players can join that to show their love of a particular character, and they receive those rewards for doing it. But this update will add some elements of competition between the groups. So we'll have more on that as the time arrives. Next up, LEGO Marvel Super Heroes 2 got the Cloak and Dagger DLC from this week. This is available for $2.99, or if you got the season pass, you already own it. And this is set after the Cloak and Dagger gain their incredible powers, and they must help the two escape their evil captor, with his superpowered henchmen, and working together for a series of puzzles using unique new abilities. And upon completing the level, there'll be new unlockable characters Cloak, Dagger, Mr. Negative, Blackout Shroud, Nightmare, and Silvermane to add to the main game's roster, which already has around 200 superhero and supervillains. So this new pack is available now and has joined the likes of the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Black Panther, Champions, Out of Time and Agents of Atlas. And as you can imagine, there will be one for Avengers Infinity War in the next couple of weeks. So look out for that. Next up, Forge Battalion from Team 17, the Early Access RTS from Command & Conquer veterans Petroglyph Games. Now, they've actually had the first major content update for the game, which adds 5 brand new campaign missions where you can take the freedom to Europe. There are Tier 4 attachments where you can upgrade your infantry, vehicles, aircraft and buildings with new weaponry and armor. A new locomotion that deploys hover tanks and jump jet infantry to the battlefield. And it's tripled the rate at which you can unlock all the unit attachments. So this is actually going to be available right now, and it's the first of many big content updates for the game, so we're going to keep our eyes peeled for that. Persona 5! Oh wait, it's not Persona 5 as you might think. Persona 5 Dancing Star Night, as well as Persona 3 Dancing Moon Knight, have been announced to get some DLC. Now, these games haven't been officially announced for the West just yet, but Persona 5 Dancing Star Night is going to get Lavenza, and Persona 3 Dancing Moon Knight is going to get Theodore. These were shown off in a new trailer from Japan and Atlas, and the game is going to appear in Japan only at the moment on May 24th, 2018 on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita. As I said, no announcement for the West just yet, but we're hoping that we will. I mean, Persona 5 did okay here, so, I don't see why it wouldn't, and they're great games. So we look forward to hearing more about that soon, hopefully. As we mentioned at the top of the podcast, Turmoil, The Heat is On DLC is available this week. For $4.99, you get a brand new campaign with a host of new ideas and features for the game. That includes a new town, a new mayor, a massive oil-rich map with 3 divided areas. There's new drilling mechanics that have been introduced with magma, which can also be mined and sold. You see the return of Edward, Fred, and William, but there's new characters as well, including Philip, who runs a shady card game, which you can actually play, and Jack, who runs a magma tools operation. There's also an improved auction system, but shares will still cost you money. So there's a lot going on, and as I said, we'll have more to report on that next time. Also mentioned earlier in the podcast, South Park, the Fractured But Whole Story DLC from Dusk Till Casa Bonita is now available, and it's had a new trailer revealed for that. It's going to cost you $11.99, but it adds a whole new campaign and superhero class to the game. In Casa Bonita, Mysterian's sister is in trouble and allied herself with the Vamp Kids. They've taken over Cartman's favourite restaurant, Casa Bonita, so you have to visit and explore Black Bart's cave with a newborn class. This class has 4 different occult powers, but you can also dress up in goth costumes and gather some loot, as well as team with Henrietta the support witch. There's a trailer on Expansive, and as I say, we're hoping to have a full review very soon. GTA Online, the Southern San Andreas Super Sport Series, lots of S's, is taking things to the next level. This is the first in a series of new updates that's gone live this week, which adds 2 new race modes to the game. The first Hot Ring circuit has been designed with a Hot Ring Sabre in mind. This is a homage to Vice City's vintage car and mixes in the cunning stunts of GTA Online. The Hot Ring circuit is now available until March the 26th. And delivers double GTA cash and RP. There's also 2 new supercars, the Overflawed Entity XXR and the Chevrolet Tapen, the Volkart Facola Station Wagon and the rally-inspired Vapid GB200. And there's some more announcements been revealed as well. From April the 3rd, there's going to be a Target Assault mode. On May the 1st, you can dodge underwater mines, glide over scenic raceways and boost through air gates to take on 10 unique new special vehicle races. And there's going to be 7 new vehicles appearing in Transform races from May the 29th. There's also some additional additional discounts, which you can find out more on expansivedlc.com, so take a look at that. As I'm recording this podcast, Bethesda are still yet to make a major announcement regarding the Elder Scrolls Online on Wednesday. Now, there's been wild speculation that it's going to be the Somerset Isle DLC. Bethesda claim that new adventures are on the horizon and are billing the forthcoming announcement as major. On Wednesday on Twitch, this will be streamed live with the ZeniMax Online Studios creative director Rich Lambert. While it has been widely speculated that Somerset Isle will be the DLC that wins out, there is also suggestion it could be a return to the likes of Oblivion and even maybe a dedicated Skyrim expansion. Of course, we know the last major chapter was Morrowind back in June of 2017, but stay tuned to expansivedlc.com for all the updates. Pokken Tournament DX Blastoise DLC footage was shown at the Spring Fist Tournament. Now, we know that he's part of the DLC Battle Pack, and this has already received Aegislash, Mega Rayquaza, and Mimikyu. Blastoise is set to follow. And at the Spring Fist Tournament in Japan on the 17th of March, there were world-exclusive footage of the brand new fighter. While the model looks a little bit stunted and stiff when compared to previous iterations of the mighty Cannon Blaster, he still leaps around using water jets and vertical leaps, there's spinning shell attacks, upward strikes, skids, and water breathing. And as always, he's supported by Mew and Celebi. He's a mid-range fighter that can move away from his enemies quickly if he's in trouble, but he's going to be an absolute beast to take down due to his massive health bar. Blastoise is going to appear in Pokken Tournament DX on March 23rd. The Sims 4 1.05 console update has appeared, and it's massively overhauled the UI, changed the cursor movement and the camera, and really, according to many people, massively improved the overall experience. The feedback for the game led to the team making some big design changes and adjustments to improve the overall experience. For instance, transferring Sims between unplayed households during transfers, and Sims can now answer the call to work in the city without leaving you stuck answering the phone. There is a full massive changelog on Expansive. For instance, the UI got a little ahead of itself. Sometimes the parts of the game you thought you were controlling wasn't necessarily the thing the UI thought you wanted to control. So the UI has been massively overhauled. The Grim guitar has been given a limelight in the main menu. There were some sneaky UI elements that chose to remain hidden until you found them. There was adjustment to the sim count that can affect the game. All tons of stuff. And as I said, the early reports for this have been really, really positive, and it looks like the Sims 4 on consoles might just be the experience you wanted it to be to begin with. So check out the full changelog on expansivedlc.com. Sonic Mania Plus adds 2 new playable characters in an upcoming paid update. It's also going to get a physical release this summer, and it's going to add a brand new Encore mode on top of that as well. So Sonic Mania Plus will add 2 new playable characters, Mighty the Armadillo and Ray the Flying Squirrel. Now, these characters first appeared in the 1993 Japan exclusive arcade game Sega Sonic the Hedgehog. We don't know what the characters are going to offer just now, but we will find out more details in the future. But you're also going to get an Encore mode, which essentially remixes the zones and enables players to compete against one another in a new variation on the 4-player multiplayer. As mentioned, this will be premium DLC. But the physical release for the game will also release this summer, have a Sega Genesis reversible cover. It's also going to have a holographic slipcover and a 32H art book for $29.99. There is no word on the actual official launch other than summer 2018, but due to the upgrade of the price of the physical release, we can imagine that the additional content might be somewhere between the region of £8 to £10. But more on that as we get it, and again, all the details on expansivedlc.com. Now, while we know Bethesda is announcing one big thing this week and not waiting until the E3 showcase, which might be a surprise to some, likely suggesting that Elder Scrolls expansion is coming out around the same time as E3, if not shortly afterwards, we do know something they are going to talk about at Bethesda's E3 showcase, and that is Prey. Now, we reported a little while back the Prey DLC, or maybe even a sequel, could be on the way, and now we've got a massive clue to tell us a bit more about it. So Arkane's latest project seems to hint at an expansion on the moon, and in the latest tweet from Arkane Studios, we reckon we'll learn more about it at Bethesda's E3 showcase on June the 10th. Now, this would make a lot of sense considering Bethesda has typically used the event to announce their latest projects over the last few years. Last year, for instance, was the first time we saw Dishonored Death of the Outsider. Now, the tweet was simply labelled Good Morning Morgan, which is the quote which opens Prey, and it's got a picture of all of the staff holding down one of their eyelids while holding up different bits of apparatus, as well as seeing a blackboard in the background. Now, the blackboard in the background is particularly interesting because it shows you the date of 06/10/18. Also below that is the caption for Moon highlighted and question marks behind it. You've also got words like Cosmocorp there, What About Peter, Moonshark, and Landy. All these things are kind of relating to a bigger picture about Prey, and we've got some speculation as to what the DLC could exactly be about on the site, so that's worth checking out. But we can certainly conclude from this that Prey is by no means done. The long-awaited DLC for that is probably going to be announced at E3's Bethesda showcase, and who who knows when it will be released. Maybe it'll even be a sequel, who knows, but we are very happy to say that it looks like there's more Prey to come, and yeah, we're going to be following this story very closely in the weeks to come. As I said, check out expansivedlc.com for all the speculation about what this DLC could be and is about. The big story this week, Star Wars Battlefront 2's progression update redesigns the game this week. So Star Wars Battlefront 2 has had some contention since it launched, and this game-changing title update is going to look to progress all of that. And progress is being the key word because the progression system is adding changes to in-game cosmetics. With the new update, star cards can only be earned through gameplay and will not be purchasable in the slightest. You will also only earn experience points for classes, hero characters, and ships you choose to play in multiplayer. And if you earn enough XP to gain a level, you'll also get 1 skill point. This can then be used to unlock or upgrade an eligible star card you'd like to equip. What's more, you will now keep everything earned and unlocked, which includes heroes, weapons, and star cards, and everything you've already earned will be compatible with this update. Crates will now also contain credits or cosmetic emotes and poses, but nothing which impacts on the gameplay. These are still daily login rewards though, and from April you'll actually be able to get new appearances which can be unlocked with in-game credits or purchasable crystals. This is all in addition to the continued balance patches and modes coming to the game in the next few months. So these are some big changes, and we're hoping to check the updates out this week and report back soon on what we feel has done and whether or not it's an improvement to Star Wars Battlefront 2. Bandai Namco have had a busy few weeks, and they've just revealed as well that Soul Calibur VI, the upcoming installment in their massive fighting franchise, is going to add The Witcher, Geralt of Rivia, to its roster as a guest character. Now, as you know, Soul Calibur has always had some intriguing and exciting guest characters over the last 20 years, and that includes the likes of Link, Ezio, Dante, even Darth Vader and Yoda. Geralt is both a logical and a welcome addition to that elite group. In addition to being able to play as the White Wolf, Doug Cockle will resume his vocal duties, there will be the familiar Hunt or Be Hunted composition score from the game, and you'll even be able to fight in Kaer Morhen, the familiar training school for witches. As you know, Geralt joins Nightmare, Ivy, Killick and Mitsurugi Safita as confirmed characters, and looks like he's been ripped straight out of the game with the quality of the graphics. Looks stunning. Check out the full trailer on expansivedlc.com. Soul Calibur 6 is due to launch in 2018. We actually got some hands-on with that recently, so we look forward to sharing some more coverage soon. Speaking of Bandai Namco, and interestingly, yet another crossover for Final Fantasy XV because it just hasn't had enough already. Final Fantasy XV's Noctis DLC has showed up in Tekken 7 this week. Noctis Lucius Calum is the central protagonist of Square Enix's latest Final Fantasy game and is going to be a playable character from March the 20th, releasing as the 3rd DLC pack for the game. His abilities include warp, strike, teleporting, and sword switching, and there's also going to be a Final Fantasy XV themed stages to play in, such as the familiar Hammerhead Garage. If you even look closely, you might even see a chocobo in the background. So yeah, the Final Fantasy DLC crossovers continue, and Tekken 7 has got itself a very awesome looking character, so that's available to download right now. You can check out the trailer for that on Expansive DLC. Now, a lot of people may not know this, but there is actually a Quake Champions early access game from Bethesda out right now. I know, right? Quake Champions March update has added Instagib, 2v2 ranked, and much more. Now, as mentioned, this is odd and it's an early access title from Bethesda, but it's going to have this massive March update. Really might be the thing that pushes it over the edge and gets it in people's radar. Instagib is a casual mode for one shot, one kill, where players start with a railgun and a gauntlet. There's no power-ups, just active and passive abilities. In addition to the casual modes, there's ranked 2v2 team deathmatch, where the first team to reach 50 or the team with the most kills after 15 minutes will win. Bethesda have also added a new custom game setting for no abilities, on top of a ton of fixes and changes. And the full changelog is on expansivedlc.com, so you can check that out there. Speaking about games, had a lot of update news. Monster Hunter World, we've got 2 big stories for that this week. The first is that the spring update has crawled out on March the 22nd, and this is the big one that adds Devil's Joe to the game, plus a lot more. During a live stream, Capcom offered a first look at the post-launch content for the runaway hit, and it adds Devil's Joe as well as weapon rebalancing and gameplay tweaks. Devil's Joe will start to pop up in 6 and 7 star quests as well as the high-level expeditions, though you will need to fulfill certain conditions in order to fight it. As expected, there will be a unique set of weapons and 2 Vangus armor sets. Also, there's going to be a new update which will enable you to change the look of your character and the palico. You can do this once for free, but after that the game is going to charge you. Between April the 6th and the 19th, there's also going to be the Spring Blossom Festival, which unlocks all of the prior event quests as well as double login tickets. And naturally for that, there's going to be lots of new weapons, armor, and fireworks to unlock as well. But that's not all as far as Monster Hunter World is concerned, because it's also going to cross over with Devil May Cry later this year. In the crossover, you'll get to fight the hellish foes familiar to the Son of Sparda, but in return, you'll get the devious combination of the devastating Force Age and the Alistair weapons from the Devil May Cry series. The game will also allow you to fight in the style with a vintage coat and hairstyle trademarked by the half-man, half-god himself. The new combo weapon will be part of the Charged Blade category, though this one will leave out the shield, even though players will still be able to protect themselves. And this is going to be the first of several Devil May Cry pieces of content that will be available for all Monster Hunter World players. Stay tuned for expansive DLC for all the news on that. Warhammer Vermintide 2's content roadmap has also been outlined. This is a runaway success story, and Fat Shark are really ready to capitalize with their content roadmap. By the end of May, the game will receive dedicated servers, extensive mod support, as well as 2 DLC maps. The rest of this month, however, is being dedicated to balancing tweaks and improvements, and then in April they will add the first DLC pack to the game, which will add 2 new levels. We'll have more on Warhammer Vermintide 2 as we get it, and there will be a full review on Expansive in the not too distant future. And finally, talking about a game that's been slipping under radars, Metal Gear Survive 1.04 dropped and adds some co-op rescue missions, as well as some bug fixes and balancing. The co-op rescue missions task players with evacuating Charon corpse survivors using interceptor and defense units. There are also rescue mission events including the Captive Ferryman, where you can earn co-op rewards and energy. Other content updates include enhancement items, bug fixes, and game balance changes. You can get all the full changelog on expansivedlc.com, so check it out there. And that's about it for the news. We said there was going to be a lot of it, so thank you very much for listening. Make sure you subscribe to Expansive. We hope you enjoyed this show, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of you in 2018. You can grab this podcast on Podbean, iTunes, and SoundCloud. We're also going to be uploading it to YouTube at some point soon. You can find Expansive on Facebook. You can tweet us at ExpansiveDLC. Subscribe on YouTube and at ExpansiveDLC as well. You can chat to us at any of those channels or email us at expansive@expansivedlc.com. And of course, you can find us at expansivedlc.com's website. If you've got any questions for the podcast, feel free to send those in at podcast@expansivedlc.com. Thanks very much for listening again, and we will see you next time.